Well, the Stoics had this slogan that the goal of life was living in agreement with nature. And in the original Greek, it's actually quite a sort of resonant, symbolic, kind of loaded. It's just a very short phrase, but it's obviously partly it became a lasting slogan because in the Greek it's very rich in meaning and carries a lot of connotation. And the Stoics interpreted it to mean a number of different things. So people often read it and think, what the hell does that mean? It's kind of cryptic. It meant a bunch of things to them, which are kind of a little bit hard to translate into English. So number one, the phrase they use implies living consistently, or you could say with integrity, or in a way that where you're not being a hypocrite or contradicting yourself. I.e., as we mentioned earlier, if you really use the Socratic method, you should expose all those contradictions and work them through. That's one part of it. Another part is the Chrysippus, the third head of the Stoa, introduced this dichotomy between internal and external nature. And so the Stoics clearly believe, this is one of their recurring themes, is they go, on the one hand you have to do this, on the other hand you have to do that. That's the first sentence of the Stoic handbook of Epictetus. It says, on the one hand some things are up to us, on the other hand other things are not. This is like an idiom in Greek as well, it's quite common. And so Chrysippus said there's internal and external nature. So internal nature would be, look, what's your fundamental nature as a human being? The Stoics often say, if you want to know what the goal of life is, you have to first of all ask yourself, what am I? Marcus talks about this a lot. He says, who am I? What am I? Epictetus raises this question to his students as well. Are you just an animal? Are you just like a bunch of organs, like in flesh and stuff? What's the core of your identity? And what the Stoics want to argue is that the core of your being is self-consciousness and your ability to reason. Not necessarily, the reason maybe isn't quite the right word. What they mean is this kind of broad ability to be self-aware and use language and think in general, right? They don't just mean we're logic machines. They mean something more like what we would mean, what's more kind of common sense, if you like, what distinguishes us from other animals, and what's, at least to some extent, and what's really the core of our identity is our ability to think and to exhibit self-awareness. So the Stoics might say, look, you could imagine, what would you rather lose, your body or your mind? If you could lose your body but carry on with the body of a robot but still have your mind intact, would you rather have that, or would you rather have go insane and have your mind destroyed but your body continues? And they think it's self-evident that most people would rather preserve their mind because that's what they identify with. They might not be keen to lose their body, but they'd feel as if they kept their body but lost their mind, then they might as well be dead because they don't really exist anymore in a sense. So the Stoics said, look, you're not your body, you're your ability to think and reason. And then they thought it follows from this that we have an obligation to use this part of our minds well. They thought, as reasoning animals, if you're going to reason or think at all about the world and speak, then you're implicitly committed to grasping the truth. What's the point of thinking if you don't care whether what you're thinking is true or false, right? So the Stoics would argue you're implicitly committed to thinking well, thinking successfully, thinking clearly and grasping the truth. And they think, essentially you can deduct a whole ethic from this, right? If you believe that we're already necessarily committed to this project of grasping the truth, then all you have to do is just do that properly. That's your job in life. You do have a job, you do have a duty, and it's to achieve wisdom. What would it mean to take this ability to think and do it properly? Well, that would be, for want of a better word, what we call wisdom. It would be a kind of practical wisdom, a moral wisdom. It would be thinking clearly applied to life. So the Stoics call the goal of life living rationally or living wisely. Their attempts to try and articulate this. So living in agreement with nature means thinking and acting consistently and without hypocrisy, and also grasping that your essential nature is your ability to think and reason and applying that to the best of your ability so that you begin to approach a kind of wisdom. And then the flip side of it is external nature.
Yeah.
So the Stoics said, look, and we're in this environment where a bunch of stuff happens that's not under our direct control. Like, and a lot of it we can influence, but we don't have direct control, complete control over any of it. There are two things in the world, as Epictetus would say. There's the stuff that you're doing, and then the stuff that's happening to you. Simply. There are your actions and your experiences. Like the stuff that you do voluntarily that you could choose to stop doing, and then there's all the other stuff, like what's up to us and what's not up to us. And the Stoics say the things that aren't up to us, we have to realize lack intrinsic value. They're merely a means to an end. We have to begin to view them in a more neutral manner, their values being more derivative. And what's really important is the way that we use our own actions. So we should take more responsibility for our voluntary actions in life and our voluntary thoughts in life, and learn to be more detached and different and accepting towards external nature, like the stuff that's happening to us. And Chrysippus illustrated this with this famous anecdote, a famous metaphor of the dog and cart, that everyone seems to love. But it's a pretty cool metaphor. So the idea is there's a car, which I guess this would have been a common thing in ancient Greece, and there's a dog tied to it. And this, the dog, he says, look, the car is like fate, or it's external nature. It's the stuff that happens. And he says, either you go with the flow, or you're dragged along by it anyway. So either the dog kind of has learned just to walk along and keep pace. And after it's been doing it for a while, he goes, you'll see someone with a dog in the cart, and the dog manages to walk perfectly in sync with the cart. Like they're two kind of fluid things. Or, like at first someone gets a new dog and he ties it to his cart and he sets off and the dog's being dragged along by its backside. Like it hasn't figured out yet how to keep pace with the cart. And he says the fool or the vicious man is always at odds with external events. He's kind of he's frustrated. He wants to deny them. He goes, I can't believe this is happening to me. Like, why me? Like, and he complains about everything. And he says the wise man accepts everything that befalls him, in the sense not that he agrees with it, but that he accepts reality. So he doesn't say, I can't believe this has happened to me. He says, c'est la vie, stuff like this happens. And then maybe he does something about it. But he doesn't grumble and complain and get frustrated with the fact that it's happened. Too late for that. Like, he accepts reality and then seeks to move forward. So Stoics aren't passive. They seek to reconcile commitment to disciplined action with a kind of emotional acceptance of things that have already happened or are otherwise beyond their direct control.